Hey everyone, this is Jessica of Into the Warren. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I am Jessica. I live in Central Florida and I live with my husband, my almost 2-year-old Brooke, and my dog Victor, who is the cutest little Boston Terrier you ever did see. He just had a birthday. He is 6 years old. We've had him since he was 8 weeks old. So he was our first baby, and he is getting a little gray and a little crotchety in his age, but we love him. And yeah, I teach art, elementary art, but with all that is happening in the world right now, I have been home a lot doing distance learning, but next week is our last week. And so I'm just going to be doing catch up with the students, anyone who hasn't turned anything or some things haven't been turned in, have that time to turn things in, grade whatever's left, and just kind of wrap it up. This week I went to the school and cleaned up my art room, so I got that under control. I think there's a couple more things I have to do and turn in my keys and all that jazz, but pretty much we are done with school for the year. And I'm crossing my fingers that we will be able to go back to actual school next year. I'm hoping that something positive is going to happen, that we're going to try to get this issue under control a little bit more, and that we're able to be together in some form or fashion next year. And you know, it's just really challenging for some of my students to do art at home with limited materials, so we've had to be very creative over the past 3 months or so. But we got to do what we got to do. We want people to be safe. So I am here to give you some updates on what's going on and what I've been up to and all that jazz. For people who are returning to my channel, thank you so much for subscribing and watching these videos and sending me comments. And a lot of you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and you're very encouraging there, so I do appreciate that communication with you, because right now I feel pretty isolated, as I'm sure some of you also feel, or many of you. So let's talk. First thing, I am wearing my sweater that I made. It's a little wrinkly. This is my raglan pullover that I worked on. I did the sleeves a little wider, and I also didn't put them, they're like 3/4 length, because if I were to wear, I roll up my sleeves like basically any long sleeve shirt, so just kind of saves me that extra step. But the only negative I would say about this sweater is that when I blocked it, this is a domestic wool, it's 100% wool, it's not super washed, it's not treated, it's hand spun, all of that kind of thing. When I blocked it, the neck is a little bit wider than maybe I would want, because if I'm like moving around, it'll start to slide. So it's a little wide, I would say. I don't know if you wet it again and blocked it again and brought it in, if it would dry a little bit tighter. I don't want to ruin it, so I'm not going to do that. But it's a nice like lounging sweater when you're just kind of hanging out on your couch. It's kind of boxy. It's like big and boxy, but it's like cozy. And I was worried about how soft it would be when it got washed, and it actually, I washed it pretty well, because like I said a few videos ago, it kind of had like hay in it and everything. I mean, like it really did come from the sheep, you know. And so I washed it really well and put it in a soak, and it actually has that wool feeling, but it's so much softer once you wash it and you block it. So I'm pretty happy. I love the color, and I have this same yarn in red, like a earthy red, so I can't wait to use that for another project. But I think what I'll do, because I know that there's a lot of stretch to it, I will probably make a size or 2 smaller than what I think I need, just so that I'm not too worried about how it will flatten out. But basically, I really do like it. I think that it's good for the second sweater I've ever made, second adult sweater I've ever made. With that, one of my whips that I started after I finished this, actually on the same day, believe it or not, is I made, did I show you my Frida yarn? I don't remember. I made, if I didn't, I dyed yarn that was, yes I did tell you. So I did dye yarn inspired by a Frida painting. Maybe I didn't dye it yet, I just told you about the idea. Anyways, I did dye yarn that was inspired by a Frida painting that had greens, blues, and reds, and some grays. And so it's hard to tell in a ball, but I did dye about 5 skeins of this colorway that I call Frida Diego. And I decided to keep these colors. They're food color dyed, so I thought I would keep it. And I have started another sweater. So this one is by the designer Andrea Mowry, which she's very popular. And this is a raglan sweater also, and the cool thing about this one is that it's in stockinette in the front and back, but the sleeves are actually in garter stitch. So that's pretty cool. So I haven't gotten very far on this because I have been dyeing a lot of yarn, and yeah, so that's taken up a lot of my time, but I am working on it. And now I'm going to talk to you about the yarn dyeing. Tuesday I got my yarn. I was so like impatient because it had been like 3, almost 4 weeks of waiting. And so I'm like checking FedEx, like waiting, or UPS or one of those, waiting and waiting and waiting to try to figure out what time they were gonna come. And they came about like 11 o'clock. And right away I started making dye stock. And dye stock is where you take the powder dye and you mix it with water, and there's a specific ratio. Usually it's 1:1. So I have mason jars that are 300 milliliters, so it would be 3 grams to 300 milliliters. The thing about acid dyes is that they are bad to inhale. They're like a powder, and you don't want to breathe it in. So you have to wear a mask, and you wear gloves, and you can wear eye protection as well. And some people don't like to use acid dyes because it's a little scary and intimidating. You have to cover all your surfaces. You just, certain things you can only use for dyeing. You can't use it for anything else. So there's a lot of like things you have to consider when using acid dyes, but I took every precaution that I could, put on my mask, and started making dye stock. Once the acid dyes mix with water, you can take your mask off. It's only when the acid dyes are open and the powder is exposed. So I did that, and I dyed my first colorway the same day. I was exhausted by the end of the day because dyeing yarn, I know some people are critical of pricing of hand-dyed yarn. I mean, they can go from $12 a hank to $35 a hank. Really depends on who made it, how popular they are, the colorway, all those things, and what they're made out of. Like, you know, it depends on the fiber too. But if you actually dye yarn, you'll know that the process takes a lot of time. It's kind of strenuous, and you're using a lot of heat and water, and it's labor intensive. It really is. And just to make one colorway and five hanks of one colorway took me probably 5 hours. I mean, it's because there's a lot of waiting for the dyes to soak and washing, and you know, depending on the techniques as well. So the first day I dyed 5 skeins of yarn, and my first colorway in the acid dyes is called North Creek. And North Creek is a town in upstate New York that is my hometown. I went to school there, and high school, and it's a really beautiful place on the Hudson River in the mountains. And so I wanted to do an ode to my hometown, which I haven't been to my hometown in, how old am I? So I haven't been there in like 18 years, pretty much. So here is, oh, and I made labels. So I put my graphic design skills to good use, I'd say. And I made this new rabbit. I'll probably add this logo to everything when I get the chance. But it says Into the Warren, hand-dyed yarn. It's a green rabbit with flowers inside. So that's the new label. And on the side, all your, upside down, all your information, upside down still. Oh, it's backwards. Anyway, all your information and your directions and that kind of thing. So I made 5 of those. I put them on the table so they're not on the couch where the dog likes to lay. So I have more, but this is what it looks like. It's 100 grams. It's DK weight. It's 230 yards. It's 100% superwash merino, and it's a 3-ply. The colors include a mauve, teal. I have a recipe of everything. A teal, and I want to say there's avocado and a different color in there. And fawn. Fawn is like a brown. But anyway, I did some dip dyeing, and then I did some painting in the steam pans and all sorts of things to get this effect. So you can see some spots are heavily green, some spots are more stripy, and yeah. So that's the first colorway. All of these colors are on my Etsy shop, Into the Warren. So just like the channel, you can search the shop there. I'll put it in the description below. So I have those up on the Etsy shop, and the shipping is free. So it's just the price. Like I said, I have 5 of those, but if someone really wanted more or we run out, I can make more. So that's no problem. And then I have one hang of fingering weight misty green, so you can see here, and it is 415 yards. It is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. It's a 3-ply. This is actually remaining dye that came from North Creek. There was so much dye, like I overused dye. There was so much dye that I didn't want it to go to waste. So I started adding dye from the remains in different ways in a pot, and I called this Misty Green. So it has hints of browns and pinks and greens in here. It's really pretty and subtle. So I just have one of these. Obviously this one can't really be replicated, so it's like a one of a kind, but that'll be in the shop soon. I haven't listed this one yet. And another thing is, remember that if you're using hand-dyed yarn, each skein, like look how dark green this one is. This one's a little in mid-green, this one's lighter. These all came from the same dye lot, but they vary. And when you are using hand-painted or hand-dyed yarn, you're going to want to rotate the skeins as you're doing a project. So if you're doing a sweater and you need all 5 skeins, what I would suggest is you use some of this skein and then you switch to a different one, and then go to a different one, and then go back, because then it makes it more consistent. And you basically have to do that with most skeins. But if it's just one, then it doesn't matter. But that's my suggestion, and I do put that, I write that in my Etsy shop as well in the description. Just a tip for you. And then the next colorway I made was yesterday, and I wanted to do a play on Vincent van Gogh, And I think my theme really is going to be that most of my yarn is going to be related to something in nature. Many of it related to flowers, I would say. So I looked at some Van Gogh sunflower paintings that he had done, and I really love the sunflowers. So I decided I was going to try to replicate Van Gogh sunflowers in yarn. So I happen to have sunflower yellow, which was helpful. I also used monarch orange and some fawn and some green, maybe avocado green, I don't remember. I have it written down like I said. And I replicated the colors of Van Gogh's sunflower paintings. So you can see there's an ombre effect on these. So one end is the light yellow and then the other end is more of this golden yellow because I have monarch orange in this as well. So I have five of these, but they've already sold. But I haven't mailed it to the person yet. But if I still have them in my Etsy shop because I can just can make more. So if you're interested in Van Gogh sunflowers, I call them Vincent sunflowers, I can make them again. And if I'm making them to order, then you can choose. Right now I have DK weight, which are what this is, 3 weight, or I have fingering weight, which is 1. I can make it in fingering weight as well. These are also 230 yards, 100% merino, superwash merino, and 100 grams. And I have 5 of these. I really love these. I think they're beautiful. So this is what I have been up to now. I have more yarn hanging up to dry outside. I have 2 more colorways coming. I'm gonna sit back. I actually brushed my hair for you guys, but then I couldn't, and I curled it, but then I couldn't find my hairspray, so all the curls came out. But I also put makeup on just for you. So yeah, I have 2 more colorways outside that are drying, but I don't want to show them to you yet. They're gonna go on the shop by the end of the day, I would say. One is gonna be called Night Blooms, blooms like blooming flowers. And the other one is called Claude's Lilies. So Claude meaning Claude Monet. So I have Vincent Sunflowers and Claude's Lilies. The Claude's Lilies is on fingering weight yarn, and the Night Blooms is on DK. I don't have any bulky or worsted yarn yet. I invested a good amount of money with my wholesale account to get a bunch of yarn, but some of it was out of stock, so some of the weights. So I stuck with DK and fingering for the beginning, but since I've already sold the Vincent Sunflowers, I think I will go back and order more with that money that I've earned. Put the money right back in, because it does take a little bit of money to kind of start up buying the bare yarn, even with a wholesale account. It's like, I think I bought 30, 40 skeins my first purchase. So, you know, in a few days I will be out of them, but I don't want to make more than I need. So I'm trying to put them in the shop and see what happens before I like start investing all the money. But that's kind of where I am now. And like I said, the shipping is free, and I tried to make my prices fair. I hate talking about pricing. I hate talking about how much money something is that I make. I was like that when I was a graphic designer. I was like that when I made my meditation jewelry. Like, I always hesitate to tell people a price, but with the cost of the yarn and then buying the dyes and printing labels and the electricity you use and the water you use and the supplies you have to buy that have to be separate from your other house supplies and things like that, like, and then on top of that, the amount of hours that it takes to think of, create a recipe, create dye stock, and then actually make it. I mean, the pricing is as fair as I could make it with the free shipping as possible. You know, I'm not Lion Brand, I'm not Red Heart, and not to mention the wool is super washed. It's actually 100% merino. It's really squishy, it's soft, and it's really like a piece of art. It's not made by a machine. So I tried to be as fair as possible. I tried to think of what kind of yarn would I like if I were to buy yarn from someone. And I do buy hand painted yarn from other people. So I do support other dyers, and I'm new. So I did my best to make it fair for everybody. So what else? I think that's really it for today. I'm going to, hopefully some of my yarn will be dry soon. It's nice and warm outside and sunny, so it should. And then I'm going to wrap those. My husband made me a niddy noddy, and that's out of like PVC pipe to help you like rewrap hanks of yarn. Like any hanks that get too tangled in the dyeing process, I actually take the ties off, roll it into a ball, and then put it on the niddy noddy and reskein it or rehank it for you to make it look nicer. So we'll see how tangled they are. Sometimes I can straighten it back out and sometimes I can't, but let me see what else. Yeah, if you have any questions about the yarn, about the process, if you have any thoughts about maybe like a colorway that, or specific colors that you're looking for that you would like maybe to do a custom order, the price wouldn't change. Like all of them are the same price. Except for the fingering might be slightly cheaper. I don't know yet. The yardage is higher, so I don't know. But if you have like a thought about like maybe some yarn you might want to custom make, please reach out to me. I have a ton of colors. I have nothing but time right now, and I'd be happy to work with you on coming up with something. So let me know. And I also want to shout out to Cinnamon Stitches. I'm sure y'all have heard of her. She's a bigger channel than I am. But Cinnamon Stitches is like, she's like the nicest person. She is so supportive and always comments and always, she's just so positive, and I'm so proud of her. She's doing a Premier Yarns week where she's talking about her favorite Premier yarns and offering cool discounts because she has built a really strong relationship with Premier Yarns, and she's showing tutorials on how to make certain things out of specific yarns. I didn't even know anything about Premier Bloom. That sounds awesome. I didn't even know they created that. So if you aren't subscribed to her or have never been to the Cinnamon Stitches podcast, you should go check her out. She's awesome. So outside of that, I think that's it. I hope you like this video. I hope that you'll check out my Etsy shop. It's small right now, but I will put it in the description, and I will talk to you later. Bye.